Welcome to the Major Business Podcast, where we talk everything strategy, structure, training, and performance as it relates to auxiliary dance. And I'm your host, Vershawn Lee, also director of Choreo You Dance. So please make sure you go and follow us on the Instagram, the TikTok, Facebook, all that good stuff. But right now, let's go ahead and get into what we're talking about today. Here today, we're going to talk about something very important that y'all ain't talking about. Y'all ain't talking about it. Field shows, all right? So we're at the time of year where field shows are getting a little stale, okay? They're a little stale because lots of different reasons. We'll get into it. Lots of different reasons. But it's time to refresh them. And I'm going to give you 3 ways to go ahead and refresh your field shows so that we can keep the children on the team. I get way too many phone calls, DMs, emails about text messages about how can I keep these kids on the team, or I'm trying to recruit and get more kids on my team. And at the end of the day, the ultimate one word, fun. Okay, if it ain't fun, they don't want to be a part of it. Dance can only last so long. They love dance already before they came. So that's a non-factor. They come, they're dancing, it's great. But the vibes got to be there too. And if you aren't providing the vibes, okay, which it may have been cool at first, but now, it's late in the season. And we got to go ahead and refresh these routines. So let's talk about a couple things real quick before we get into the 3 reasons, 3 ways that we can refresh our field shows. All right. All right, so it's the end of the season, like I said, and we got the playoffs. Some people in the playoffs. Some people have a couple last games or whatnot, depending on where you are, okay, where you live. And then we have all these battle bands and things, right, that are coming up, different classics and all type of stuff, right? And band directors, they just be finding all type of opportunities to have these kids, which are great experiences for our kids to be exposed, but at the same time, we have to keep producing the same material over and over again. So we just got to find a new way to present it and to re-engage the kids while they're in practice. All right. Also, we need to increase practice productivity, because once we know the dance and we keep doing the same dance, what are we going to be doing now? So now we just kind of hanging out, we kicking it at practice, because now I got other things to do. So now I can't come today because X, Y, and Z. I got to leave early because X, Y, and Z. I'm going to be a little late because X, Y, and Z. Okay? So you'll start to notice where attendance will decline a little bit just because you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing that, and practice ain't productive no more. Nobody wants to be a part of that. So now there are other things that are more important. Additionally, as I mentioned before, of course, you want to retain the dancers, and so you want to avoid having practice be like mundane, so you got to find a little way to spruce it up, switch it up. And there are lots of other ways you can switch it up without changing the choreography. But in this case, we're talking about the field shows because that's the part that they keep performing. I mean, of course, you can always make new stands. And, there are lots of other things you can do with the stands. But listen, when they go to the auditions, they're going to learn a field show. Okay? They're going to learn some choreography. And so we got to start challenging the kids. Now, while they're in high school, middle school, before they get to the HBCU or collegiate level, okay? So due to that, we can't just work on stands, okay? That can't be all practice, all right? For me, that's the warm-up. Anyway, I got my notes right here because I ain't gonna ramble with y'all today. So also, last but not least, we just got to make sure the kids stay challenged. So the way we keep them challenged is by, ante up. Okay, so that was nice, y'all. Great job. They done did the field show 10 times. So yes, that by now it should be excellent. So now what should we do next, right? So we need to ante up the level of creativity when it comes to the choreography, or the level of difficulty with the choreography. So again, we're going to talk about 3 ways to refresh that. And to 3 simple ways too. It's not even a lot to do, but it can make the dance feel like a whole nother routine. So now let's get into how many routines. Like, we're doing a year. So I know it varies. And this is a really interesting conversation too that I have with a lot of coaches, because the band directors just be doing their own thing. So, and I mean, rightfully so, it's their program. So with that said, you got to know when you walk into a coaching position, like really get to know the person that you're working with, because, and make sure you're bringing value to the table so they know that they can have these types of conversations with you. Otherwise, they will just hand you information and expect you to just go and execute. So if they feel like you're valuable enough to bring some sense to the table, then they invite you to the table, and you'll be able to have some say in most instances. You should just be able to have some say into like what your kids are dancing to. So I would say scenario one with in terms of how many stand routines that you would typically get. So I've seen where there's one dance number that's going to be played the whole season. The band director say, offer it, we're only doing one number, okay, that's it. So when I've seen that, I've never experienced it, but when I've seen that, then coaches will take that as like, okay, we got to just do this one dance all season. Boring. So or and there have been two instances where either they provide, at least if I'm only gonna do one routine, then can I at least provide the music that I want to dance to for 10 weeks. So that's sometimes, and sometimes not. Sometimes the band artists already know what they want to play, like what tunes they want to play. So again, that's why I say if you bring something to the table and they find it valuable, then they may listen, right? Me, on the other hand, I'm not a musician, and I've tried to suggest some songs before. It wasn't a good idea. They weren't good songs. They weren't good songs to dance to for the band to play. Let's say that. They were great songs to dance to, but the band playing them, something else. So yeah, so you want to make sure, like when you're giving, or you can say, because I would make a suggestion. I like this song. I don't know if I can play this or not. I always will say that. I don't know if I can play this or not, but I want something along these lines. And so a lot of times what we're dancing to, I may base my like uniforms off of that. So I kind of need to know what's happening. So when we're having a discussion and whatever we decide on, I'm kind of counting on that to make my decisions in terms of what I'm going to be ordering for them for the season. And so with that, it is boring to do one the whole time, but that is the case sometimes. And I mean, sometimes it just depends on the program, or like I said, it may just depend on the band director. Also, I've seen a different scenario where, now this is what I've experienced several times, where we're allowed maybe 1, 2, sometimes 3 different songs. And when I say 3 different dance numbers throughout the season, I'm talking about, they may say, well, we can play this tune, like something they already have. They're maybe not introduce any new music, 2 for sure, but they may not introduce a third song, brand new song, but they may allow me to have the kids take the same dance, and then they'll play a stand tune or something for the kids to dance to, and we'll just take our choreography and place it onto a different song. So that's a thing too. Okay, so that can happen as well. Remember, these are, middle school, high school kids, and so they have to be able to adapt. So that's a great lesson in, being adaptable. So I've seen, like I said, different scenarios around like how many songs that you're able to dance to initially, and then how to execute that. Now, no matter how many dances I'm giving for the season, because this is a conversation we're going to have in the summertime and before band camp. So no matter how many dances we're going to have, for the season, I'm going to finish at least one field show during band camp. That at least one of them is finished. If I'm allowed 3, even 2, I'm going to start on the second one. It may not be finished. I might still be playing around with it. I might workshop that during, like combos and stuff during band camp, but I'm definitely going to finish the very first one. Then as the season progress, I'll finish the second one. Usually if I'm doing a third one, it's like I'm putting it on the seniors, right? I'm gonna let that be like the senior night performance, and I'm going to allow the seniors to do whatever they want to do. So if they decide to, they can revamp the routine however they want, but they're in charge of making sure the kids get it. I'm going to oversee the process, but they're singers and they need to have some level of independency, and also be able to make sound decisions and be leaders amongst, no matter if they're veterans or not. If they're singers on the team, period, they should be able to have some say at some point in time. So here's their opportunity. Okay, collectively, this is their project. If I have a third one, if it's only 1 and 2, baby, that second one, I'm doing 1 and 2. And then I might let them do the little switcheroo for, on what I got for the second one. But yeah, that's it. Okay, y'all follow? All right. So that's just the different scenarios that I've seen or have, witnessed in terms of prep or discussions prior to the season, in terms of how many dances, we're going to execute for the season. But let's go ahead and get into the way how we're going to refresh them, okay? Because we're going through the season. Boom, now we're on the second one. Okay, we're doing that. And then it's like, ooh, all right, if we do this dance one more time. Now, I am aware that we can go to games and say, oftentimes we'll run up on a game. There's a senior night there. It's their homecoming. So you may not actually perform it a lot of times, but you still go game after game at practice doing the same routines. Okay, whether you're going to perform the show or not, you're going week after week still at practice though. Just because you're not going to have a show that weekend or that Friday or Saturday, well, they have games on Thursdays now. So on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, just because you don't have a game that weekend does not mean that you're not practicing that week. So we still got to have something to practice that week. And if we're not practicing because we don't have a game, that's not really showing, that's not how we operate. Because we want them to know that we keep working, right? We have things to work on. So let's keep working. Obviously we can work on like building skills and stuff like that. But again, let's go ahead and refresh that choreography to keep them children in practice, because they do want to work on that choreography. They want to work on these field shows, and they want to feel and see themselves progress. So again, 3 reasons or 3 ways to refresh your field show choreography. Okay. All right. So number 1, let's talk about level changes. So when you're doing your field show, you can take certain sections, right? And so say you have a section where everybody's going left, right, around, or something like that. Or let's just say everybody going around. So if that's the case, you might have some that's going around, that's standing, and then you might have some that'll go to kneeling, and they might go around. So you might have 2 levels. Okay. There's also, you might can implement it where you might can provide 3 levels, or say you're doing some type of reach or whatever, you might have some reaching high and some reaching low. But the different levels we like to use is like low, medium, and high. Okay. So just think about it like that. Find a spot in the choreography where you could throw in a little, so 5, 6, they might go down to the ground on their knees on 7, 8 to do the roll or whatever. And everybody else might step out on 7, 8, and then everybody does the roll. Okay, so that's 1. So that's just a level change. Levels. Okay, so we're going to refresh number 1 by using levels. Number 2, we're going to go with facings. And so say, for instance, you're doing the routine and everybody's going to the front where they're doing 5, 6, shake, 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 right? So hip, hip, shake, shake, shake. Well, now you might want to go, or you might go reach, reach, around, down. Let's go with that one. So if we go reach, reach, around, down, then you might want to say, okay, well, if this is 5, 6, 7, 8, then you might have rows. Say you have 4 rows. So rows 1 and 3 will face the front. They will continue facing the front. on 5, 6 around down, but rows 2 and 4 are going to face the back. So if this starts on 5, then that means on 3, 4 they're going to make the turn. And then they'll say, because say you go step, say you do whatever and you step and then you reach. So they will step on 3, 4. That's how 2 and 4 got around. And then 2 and 4 would go 5, 6 around down. Now, here's the thing. If the next step travels and say we go boom, boom around down and the chasse goes to the right. Well, now if you're facing the back, you're still going to the right, but now we're going apart. Okay, so if we're moving apart, then now we have to make sure the choreography does something to get us all back to the center to face the same way. So that's a little kink you might have to work out depending on how you have your choreography set up. And maybe you want to choose a different part of the dance, like a different step or something that may be a little bit less complicated to change in terms of the facings, but you definitely want to add some facings in there to give it a little more, look, just all of these kind of add like a little bit more depth, give it some more like dimension, you know what I mean? Or add like more layers so it's just not a flat dancing routine. Also, you might want to my third idea to refresh, you might want to change up your formations. Okay, formations, transitions, I kind of like to link those together because you're going to transition into the next formation. So in terms of the transitions, maybe you do a jazz run or maybe you do a jazz walk or whatever it is. You might add some arms. Maybe you didn't have arms at first and now you're going to add the arms. Maybe you now want a chasse because we've been going over chasse and they got that now. So now you maybe want to, instead of them walking, you might want to have them chasse to the formation. Also, inside of the formation, you may want to, instead of it being 2 rows, you might want to now make it 4 rows. They can handle that now. You might want to make a little V, an inverted V. You might want to make a diamond. You can make more complicated formations that they've been on the field a few times now and they know how to use the hash marks and stuff like that. So maybe now is where you can implement, you done got past the exhibitions and ain't nobody scoring you no more, so you can try some new things and allow the kids to experience those things prior to next season, so you can play around now a little bit. Again, be sure to not make it too complicated, but I also want to make sure I add that these are very simple things that I'm giving you. Now, I mean, we can have a comp lesson, but that's not what I'm trying to do today. I'm trying to keep this simple because those that know and understand dance composition obviously have already done these things, so I'm not really talking to them. So these are just three very simple things that we can do just to manipulate the choreography slightly so that we have a different product, so that we can present something different to the audience, but also we can make sure that the dancers again are learning something new and they're having fun and you're keeping them engaged in practice. That's what we want. Retention. Remember that. Also, if you want to add some ripples in the formation, say you keep the same formation that you've had, but maybe now you want to add like a little ripple. So say you want to change the counts a little bit, right? That will just kind of fall in the timing type of category, but we're going to toss this in as a bonus. So like, say if you got the first row, from the ripple would go front to back. Or you can make the ripple go side to side. It can start on one side, go to the other, or if, you might change the ripple, however you want to do it. But just again, add a couple things just to kind of make it different. It's going to look different. People are going to think this is a whole nother routine. It ain't. Obviously we know, but the kids also will feel like they've done something different, and ultimately we want to make sure they feel great about what they're doing. All right, now how are we going to implement this? How are we going to implement it? So what we want to do, okay, one of the biggest things I want to say first, please inform them children that you're about to change something, because the kids today are not the kids of yesterday. Okay, so if you're going to change something, say you're going to change it. Now, you know your children, so you might want to say it. For some, you might need to tell them on the text in the group chat, I'm changing that dance tomorrow. I'm sick of looking at it. Or I know y'all tired of that dance. We gonna fix it on Monday. If you don't want to do that, I ain't gotta tell them nothing. You do gotta tell them, but maybe you want to tell them when they arrive to practice. You might, hey y'all, today I'm gonna make some changes to that field show. It's okay to let the kids know, but don't just start changing stuff because they be confused and upset. What in the world? Um, they be confused and upset. Okay, so just make sure you make them aware that this is a change, and you have to be clear about that. Y'all know why they so easy to confuse. I have no idea. But yeah, so please make sure you let them know that you're changing it. That's just important. Um, Try to figure out what section of the song you want to use, or the movements that you think would be best to change. So have an idea of that. Don't get there and workshop that in front of them. You may not know exactly what you want to do, but at least know what section, and at least know the music, like which pieces of choreography that you want to change, and the music. Because what I want you to challenge you to do, rather, is to have them work on it. Like, give it to them as a project. Like, allow, again, it's in the season. They have been, a lot of these band programs, listen, they done been to all these, seen these, college bands. They've seen a lot of things. They've experienced a lot. So allow them to use some of that they've absorbed and see what they can come up with. You might not like it. You might, though. You never know. Be careful, because they be copying. Um, You'll have a whole full sting at routine up in there and not even know it. But yeah, let them, do a little something. But again, if in case, or even if you give them the project, you can say, I want y'all to fix this section, the intro to the routine. And I would say the easiest places to change based on the music, and because of the way the music changes at this point, it's easier to count the music right there. It's easier for them to know because they know this music. The entrance, that's easy to change. The chorus, that's another section that's easy to change, and it's easier to count. So, we'll say usually about, about four to eight counts, depending on how long the feature is. So about 4 to 8 counts. That's not a lot of time, but it's enough time for them to have enough section to really fix. Because now, if there's a ripple, then a 8 count or 2, depending on how many counts in between the ripple, something's got to be removed. And so that's also math, So now we're integrating different subjects, right? So they have to utilize their math skills to figure out how to, again, manipulate this dance and make it fit within this time frame. So, yeah, allow them to contribute with guidance, okay? And this also encourages buy-in from them, because they can see this as fun. And if they're allowed to give input, then it tends to go further, right? Versus you telling them, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. That's how they've been operating all season. So this can now be something like a little bit more fun and engaging for them, because they can talk. Because they can talk. All right, so we talked about all of that. All right, cool. And last but not least, I would just say, so just keep it fun. Like, again, you're competing. You have to remember that, again, and I'm saying this because so many coaches are reaching out like, oh, this and that, but it's always conversations around retention. And that's why I'm saying you're competing against other sports and other activities at the school. If you want them to be devoted to yours, then you have to get their buy-in, and it has to be fun. They need to deem this important where they cannot miss it. And if they decide to do something else, they're going to come back because they miss you and your vibes and what y'all are doing on this team, okay? I always say I sell the kids on me first. Because if I want to build a program, you got to deal with me. So you got to like me first. Now, you're going to go through some things, and you're going to understand who I am and what I'm about. And you're going to know that I love you, but we're not playing in here For real, okay? We will have some fun, but it will be structured. And we will get the work done first, and we can have a little kiki later. Okay, so I make sure kids understand that once they are sold on me and what I'm about, and they understand that, then at that point they love dance, and they don't, no matter who's in front of them, they will just continue. I've seen it happen. That's why I'm saying it has to be fun. So please just remember that, to keep it fun. And that's why we need to make sure we're refreshing and constantly thinking of new ways to and be innovative about how we approach this whole dance thing, this auxiliary dance especially. So yeah, y'all, that's all I have today about field shows and how we need to, 3 ways we need to refresh, or we can 3 things we can use to refresh our field shows. I want to invite you guys, all the coaches or auxiliary sponsors. Also, I'm inviting dance teachers that also may serve as like sponsors or coaches with the teams or whatnot. So if you have any involvement with auxiliary dance, I invite you to the network below. So y'all make sure y'all click the link to join. Please register first and then join us. I love to have y'all over there. We're going to be doing lots of collaboration, some networking. We got some things coming up. I don't want y'all to miss it. But yeah, I got a lot to share. So just stay tuned. Again, but also, if you decide to utilize these things and you implement it, and don't want y'all to forget that gym battle and jamboree season is coming too, and we're gonna blink, y'all. It's gonna be here. You can utilize these things for that time as well, because just know, sometimes they play them dance tunes and don't show up not prepared. Okay, I see it every time. So just make sure you are ready. Be ye ready. Okay. Be ye ready. I always say that. All right, so that's it, y'all. I just hope y'all have a great time. I hope your season has gone well. I hope if you have learned a lot. I hope you had a lot of laughs. I hope those children have just brightened your entire year. And yeah, let's circle back. Y'all let me know how I go, okay? And if you have anything to add, drop it below too. I love a collaborative network. So if you have anything you want to add to the conversation, make sure you put it in the comments. This has been episode 2. Love you.